guys, it's Vanessa with Farmgirl Gardens and Market, and today we are getting our no-till education and market garden in. So one of the things that I love doing in my community is to help promote community garden spaces and backyard, homestead, and gardens. And so I'm blessed to have a bunch of volunteers and educators that come out to the farm and kind of get some ideas that they can put to good use. One of the challenges that garden leaders face, and one that I dealt with as the director of Common Ground Community Garden, was that, there's not a lot of budget in nonprofit gardens, and when you're trying to grow food to offset the cost of fresh produce, you really need to be mindful about your production costs and what is going into your grow space. So one of the best ways that you can build soil fertility, which is typically always an issue for us in Texas because we do have such heavy clay and shale soils, is to actually do above ground gardening. But in a raised bed scenario, that can be cost prohibitive. So what I always encourage doing, and what I've done for years, is prepping a no-till garden bed. And that simply involves having a lot of cardboard down as your first base or your substrate, piling a little bit of active compost on top of that, and then a whole bunch of mulch before adding in some more grow medium, whether that's compost or even purchased soil if that's what you need to use, over top of it, and planting in that and kind of growing consistently throughout the year. That the soil helps the mulch to break down, so the soil is acting as your nitrogen, and the mulch is really a pretty heavily tied up carbon, but over time it does break down, and then you're kind of replenishing the fertility of your bed as you're growing in it. It also acts like a giant sponge. That mulch holds on to the water when you need it, releases it when you don't. And in Texas, where water is kind of always an issue, when it rains it pours, and when it doesn't rain it might go a dang year before it does, we need to be water savvy. And so I wanted to just kind of bring you in on this space. This is going to just be a small demonstration garden. It's 25 feet wide by 50 feet in length. I've got it along the apiary back pasture fence, and what I'm doing is that you know that we've been building our berms, our permaculture berms, for the last year. So I already had my mulch on site, and then, if you can believe it, the town that I live in doesn't actually have a formal composting or recycling program. Residents have to pay for it separately, which that is often the case in a lot of the smaller towns. But the benefit for me is that I've got neighbors with a bunch of cardboard, and so I made an ask. If you can see, I'm sitting in a sea of cardboard, which I have been laying down. That wheelbarrow behind me was full of cardboard. I'm still getting more people who are gracious enough to come and drop it off to me, because I am somewhat restricted at this point in pregnancy from being able to do a lot. But you can always source things freely. When I couldn't find cardboard in abundance in previous communities, I would call stores, liquor stores, Walmart. They're usually always happy to give you their boxes. And so once you have your boxes down, then another thing to do is source some free mulch. Places like Chip Drop, you can sign up at chipdrop.com, and they will actually coordinate with other tree felling services to bring mulch to you. Now, a couple of caveats to that is that you don't get to choose the load size. Whatever they were working on, that's what they're bringing. You may not always get to choose how or where it's dumped based on access and the driver's sense of safety in managing his vehicle. And also, you don't get to pick the source necessarily of where the trees are coming from. Now, in my baby permaculture days, I used to be very concerned about not using the trees or the product from diseased trees that had been felled. And I was pretty much a stickler for that. And that cost me some time in getting some free materials. But I was lucky enough to meet with Nicholas Bertner of the School of Permaculture, and he, it's so funny. You have a light bulb moment when you know something, but it didn't aha for you. And he said, hey, you don't have to be too concerned about that, because it's at the base of your pile and you're building your fertility, it's burning, so really you're going to get it practically back to sterile with a really good healthy biome on top of it, so don't worry about that too much. So that really did help in being able to source things more quickly, and that's why I do have so much mulch, is because for the last year any tree felling service has been welcomed out here, as long as they contact me and I agree to it first. So I digress. Once we get all of our mulch on top of our cardboard, actually, sorry, small pause. You do want to wet your cardboard down after you've laid it out flat. And so the reason for that is a couple of things. For one, it just helps start the burn much quicker, the composting process. And then also it doesn't blow away from you when you're working on it. Another thing that I like to do when I'm laying down the cardboard is to utilize the tabs of the cardboard to kind of make a lock and fit all the way down the row. And that also helps keep things better locked in. It is such a pain when the cardboard flies away on you when you've been working so hard. So you can either get a soaker hose and, soak as you're going. You can lay it all down and have, piles of mulch or rocks down to hold it in place until you can wet it down after you've installed. My favorite thing to do is just pile up a bunch of cardboard and wait for the rain, and then it's already nice and wet and the tape comes off really easy. So plenty of ways to do it, but you do want to make sure you wet that cardboard before putting the mulch over top of it. And then what I do is I mark out my rows, and wherever I'm going to plant, then I do put in some better quality soil, covering it back over with mulch and plant on top of it. So I hope that that kind of helps explain the beginning process of building a no-till bed, and encourages you to consider how you can source some of these materials in abundance for cheaper, for free. And also you're keeping them out of the landfill. And as a master composter, that's something that I really do care, deeply about, because our landfill space is limited. And once you bury something that had the potential to compost and you deny it oxygen, you've now made it something that could have been a renewable resource into something that's tied up and not going to be able to compost down and break down as it could have. So just be mindful of that in your practice, and always look out for the random gardener who's asking for your cardboard. If you have it, give it to them. And if you want to be a gardener, then subscribe, keep watching, I'll show you how to use it. And I hope that y'all are well. Until next time, bye.